Grand Rising, everyone. How you doing? This is Coach Lorenzo Reed. Thank you for joining me on Facebook and YouTube. We would no longer be on TikTok. Too much struggle. I appreciate everybody for being here. We're going to give a few minutes for people to get online, to come on with us. As you come on, please let us know who you are and where you're located. I always like to know where people are located. And tonight we're going to talk about a very sensitive subject matter. For those who are watching this later on, we're going to really get started in around the 3, 4, 5 minute mark, most likely 5 minute mark. But when you come on, let me know who you are. But tonight we're going to talk about something that's very difficult for a lot of people to discuss, and that is why men don't know, do not show emotions. I kind of didn't write that as far over as I wanted to, but just scoot over a bit or just turn the camera, one or the other. But this has always been somewhat of a double-edged sword when it comes to a relationship situation. And this is brought about because of what I saw this video with K. Michelle has kind of sparked this conversation up again. And we're going to discuss it for a bit. We're going to talk about it for a little while. Um, and it's a very interesting situation when men cannot show their emotions. And if you've been on the live with me before, this is only my third one actually. Uh, you know that if you just watch any of the videos, you know I'm a very transparent person. Grand Rising Tamika in Houston, how you doing? We're in San Antonio. So hello, fellow Texan, even though I'm not from Texas at all. I'm from Atlanta. uh, but one of the more difficult things that people have to deal with in a relationship is the fact of the inability of a man to be able to express his emotions, um, because it's almost a sense that men have to be automatons when it comes to dealing with relationships and dealing with their children. Uh, if you're not presenting yourself in a certain way, then you're often looked at as not being a man. And we want to dispel some of those things and talk about those and get some opinions. And the sad part about it is that a lot of this is perpetuated not by men, it's perpetuated by growing up in households that instructed you to be so. And then in the dating world and the machismo media mentality that a lot of men have to try to emulate in order to be respected. Oh yeah, we've been in. Tamika says, "Welcome to Texas." Saying welcome to Texas. We've been in San Antonio. We just realized we've been in San Antonio for a month, but it certainly seems like we've been here for more like 2, 3 months. And not that that's a bad thing. We've enjoyed ourselves so much being here that uh, time is moving a lot slower for us. So thank you for the welcoming to Texas. Um, I'm pretty sure there will be some times that we go to Houston. We plan to explore Texas a lot, get the landscape down. Plus, Texas is so damn big that it's a 9 hour drive, 8, 9 hour drive just to get to El Paso, and you're still in Texas. It's ridiculous. Um, but yeah, so right off the bat, no, the reason why you see the Cash App down there is because they demonetized my YouTube channel um, until December 25th. So, and I know people have a tendency to want to donate to the channel, so that's why that's there. I'm not asking for anything. That is just for those people who feel inclined to do so, because super chatting is not on. Well, no, on this channel, super chatting does work. On my other primary channel, it doesn't work. So, probably shouldn't have put that there for this channel. But anyway, either way, it makes no difference to me whether you do or don't. So, I don't know if you guys have seen it, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're at the 5 minute mark. I don't know. Have you guys seen the interview? It really wasn't an interview. It was a conversation that Kay Michelle was having with a friend of hers, and in the background, you heard her talk about the fact that, and I'm gonna give the full scope of it because I don't want to present her in a way that's outside of what she actually said. But in the background, you hear her talking to a friend of hers. She tells the friend that if she is with her man, granted her age, Sherry from Chicago, that when she's with her man, if her man starts to cry, then the moment her man starts to cry, she feels like she then has to become the man, and she called and she referred to the man as a B, and that she loses respect for him, that she can no longer look at him as a man. Now, she does admit that's something that she needs to work on. So I want to make sure her credit is there for saying that it's something that she feels that she needs to work on. So she knows that there's something amiss with that mentality. But an interesting thing that I went on many different people's videos who was talking about that situation, and there were so many people, and most, let me just, no, let me be clear. There were so many women who were applauding what she said, as far as if a man starts to cry, if a man cries in front of them, then he's not a man anymore. That she can't respect him anymore. And I really want to know how some of you may feel about that. And I'm gonna go a step further in that. If you have desires to verbalize that, I'll send you the link. I'll post the link, and you are more than welcome to be invited onto the show to give your verbal opinion if you didn't want to type it in there. But how do you guys feel about if your man cries? Is that something that causes you to lose respect for your man? Is there any levels of understanding? And as you contemplate that, I, no, I'm not going to say that yet. I want to wait. I want to see what some of the comments are before I um, say anything uh, concerning a certain aspect of how people feel when a man cries. But does it bother you? Does it turn you off from that man? Do you look at him as being weak if he cries? And and it could be for a myriad of things. It could be, you know, mother, father pass away. It could be, just feeling depressed because of a loss of job, or not feeling not feeling like he's a man because he may have lost his job. You know, I'm really curious because there are different reasons. Like I know some of my reasons for uh, getting to the emotional point of crying is very different from some men. There is one situation that chokes me up quite often that a lot of men probably would share with me, um, share that thought process, and then there's a few that very few men would share that one. And I'm going to tell you guys those situations because I like being transparent. Tamika in Houston said that I would like for a man to express his feelings more, not weak at all. That's outstanding. That's outstanding. And I'm pretty sure, based on the videos, the comments on the majority of videos that I've posted, it seems like the women who are on this particular channel are very mature, know themselves, and have a better understanding of the dynamics of a person and relationship. And the most important part, it seems like a lot of the women who um, are subscribers to this channel, they know themselves. And that's a very important part. And when you know yourself, you don't have the hangups that many people will have who are just in society. No. But a man who can express his feelings is actually a better situation uh, for the man and for you, and for if there's children involved, it's better for that situation as well. It also helps your communication levels. If a man can't express his emotions, then his ability to communicate with you diminishes drastically. Drastically. Some people are existing in relationships where they think that they have a man who's a great communicator, but if he's unable to express his emotions, you're missing out on a higher level of intimacy, and you're missing out on a higher level of communication when if he can't express himself emotionally. So uh, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys two situations that put that little that little knot in my throat. So one of a very common situation that chokes me up at times. It is the fact that me and my children's mother, we divorced in 2008. My children at the time frame were 12, 8, and 7, and it was girl, girl, boy. Now, I was accustomed to being in the house with my kids every day, coming to see my kids, coming in the house every day. Even if I got home late, I would go in their bedrooms and spend time with them every day. I never worked weekends if possible, other than this one contract that I was on. And so I spent my weekends with my children, right? It's very important for me to do so. Getting divorced, I did not realize how deeply it was going to affect me. I knew it would affect me, but I didn't realize how deeply it would affect me not seeing my kids every day. When we first separated, I still went to the house every day, saw them every night. But once, some time went by, couldn't do it. Couldn't see them every day. Wasn't allowed to see them every day. I had, and it was just, and mainly because the relationship was freshly broken. It was very difficult on her. I understood that it was difficult on me. But once it started, about 6 months after the separation, when I couldn't see my kids every day, I fell into a deep, deep depression, big, deep depression. And there were almost any situation on television or a movie, or just seeing like a father out with his children, put me in this emotional state where there were many, many times and many nights where I cried like a baby, right? And even to this day, if I'm watching like a movie and I see that good father children moment, I'm pushing them back. I'm pushing the tears back, because it's getting to me. Because even though my children now are what, about to be 30, 20, how was that little girl? She's 23, so she's 25 and 23. It still gets me because my, the one of the hardest thing for me to still fully accept is not being with them 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but you know what I mean. Not being with them every day as they continue to grow up. So those kinds of moments still get me, and I still choke up at times. And before me and Angelina got together, I didn't trust 99% of the people that I ever dated afterwards with that vulnerability. Because if I trusted them with that vulnerability, let me rephrase. I didn't feel like I could trust them with that vulnerability because of other statements that they had made, and it was off the cuff statements, wasn't directly towards that, just off the cuff statements that made me feel like I can't trust you with this emotion. I can't trust that you won't throw this back in my face. You know, to give you an example, one young lady said something in reference to, if a man is still getting choked up about his divorce, it doesn't matter what reason. If he's getting choked up, then he may still go run back to her, and I wouldn't want to be in that situation. So just her saying that made me feel like I can't even tell you that the real reason is because of the attachment I have with my children. So that time frame of dating people who said things like that made it where I didn't say anything. I kept it to myself. I didn't trust that they wouldn't throw that in my face, and their insecurities or whatever they were going through themselves wouldn't throw that in my face to say that I really just wanted to go back. So I never said anything. You Before I get into the second one, I don't want to miss your guys' comments. Uh, And I like to throw comments up here from responsible. This is why relationships are dysfunctional. There is nothing wrong with a man crying and expressing his emotions in the moment. Thank you, sweet tea. Yeah, there isn't any. I got to throw this one up there from Willacoochee, Georgia. Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Like I said, I'm from Atlanta. Well, technically Marietta. For those that know, it's Marietta, right? And everyone should be able to feel what they feel. I don't think it's less of a man to be cross. And this is true, Sherry. But it is the fact that people will, and I hate sounding gender biased, but the fact that a woman would throw that in a man's face is the reason why we don't. That's the reason why we don't do it. And then that's a level of intimacy we're not sharing with you. Telling a man he can't express himself in front of you means he will seek comfort elsewhere. Exactly. Sweet Tea is exactly right. Because I'm gonna tell you, at that time frame, I had two people who had became my friends at that time frame. Um, they became my confidant, and they were women. Often throughout my life, I've had better women friends than I've had male friends. Uh, this is a weird time in my life right now where my two closest friends, aside from my brother, my two closest friends are male. Generally in my life, my closest friends have been women. And so at that time frame, when I was going through this depression, I would often confide into my two friends, Trish and Terry. Those were the two people that, especially during the week when I'm going through it, and I've taken them back on a Sunday, and at the time frame, I was getting them every weekend, and we were splitting summers. We were splitting every week in the summer, and splitting holidays and school breaks. By Wednesday, after taking them back, oh, I was a hot mess. You know, I was going through it. All right, Houston in the building. Got two Houston people in the building. Two Houston people in the building. Uh, Make me think I should have moved to Houston. No, I just playing. Y'all get hurricanes, but I was those two women were my confidants, and although women, in my opinion, are not as bad as men, because ladies, I'm gonna tell you, and this is probably a conversation for a whole nother day. We're not gonna have this conversation right now. Most women who have male friends, most of those males are just waiting for an opportunity. They're just waiting for an opportunity. But I think in my experience, it's been more legitimate to have a woman friend than it ever has been having than women have male friends. And I'm just telling you as a man, 99% of the time, and I'm putting myself in that exception. 99% of the time, male friends are trying to get your poom poom, just waiting on an opportunity. But it can be viewed often that if a man has women friends, that those women are trying to do the same thing. My two friends, Tish and Terry, never tried anything of the sort. It was always just a friendship. But of course, having them as my friends created issues with the majority of people that I would date or talk to. And that's another reason why some of those didn't work, because of their insecurities about that. And it didn't matter how much they were introduced and how much my friends pulled back when I was dating someone. They weren't like, okay, instead of being at my house as more often, they were not. Instead of us hanging out as more often, we did not. So the precedent, the preference, the priority became the person I was dating, and they understood that. But back to the conversation. So during that time frame, I couldn't express myself, uh, and that became one of the barometers of whether or not a person had any staying power with me. When I got to a point where I would trust them with some of those things, mm-mm. And let me tell you, it could be almost anything. When me and my wife went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, there were parts of that movie. that got me choked up, because it was like when anytime the Deadpool character Wade Wilson was talking about losing his friends, losing his, his family, there were moments of that. There were moments even in those kinds of movies. So for me, it could be the smallest little moment of family, and I'll think about my children in that time frame. Now, another thing, and this is less. This is for less men. This is not as many. I do suffer from PTSD from my time frame in the Marine Corps. There were things that I seen, things that I did that still um, generate certain emotions from me. Right. Um, any military situation where someone is being injured or they're going through some situation that's similar to things I went through, yeah, they get me. Those videos where the military person comes home and their children didn't know it in that whole moment, that gets me. So that type of PTSD, many people don't, most people don't experience that. But if a man cannot express when he's going through something like that to his wife or significant other, you're losing a lot of intimacy at that point. You're losing a lot of communication. They will then find other outlets. Oftentimes, other outlets are sought out in order to deal with it. The VA is going to drug you up. But there are many different situations that people are experiencing some levels of PTSD from just living in America, just living in whatever country they come from. Um, Being a black man in America, you are experiencing some levels of PTSD. I still tighten up when a police car is anywhere near me. You know, I can be going below the speed limit, but I'm gonna pull off the accelerator, look at the speed limit, and then pay attention to that police officer the entire time. Just driving while black, walking while black, shopping while black, having fun while black. You know, and although that hits everybody, every black person, for the most part, I ain't gonna say every black person, but a lot of black people, it's different for a man. It's different for a man because it's emasculating. It's emasculating to think that somebody can pull you over for a minor infraction and you may not survive it. And now you've left your family. Now you're in jail, or now you're dead. And now your whole family dynamics is messed up. And all these thoughts go through our minds. It's not just the issue with the police officer. And let me be clear, not the majority of police officers are not bad. But to go through that every time you see a cop, or most of the time you see a police officer, that's emasculating. That's playing with your manhood. We need to be able to express those things. But even when it's not that, just being able to express your love, right? So, like, me and my son had a conversation for about an hour last night. And I try to. I teach him his whole life to be able to express his feelings. My son does not express feelings that much. He's never been that way. He's never been a feelings expressive. He's never expressed his feelings wholeheartedly his entire life. It's just his personality, and I get it. But I don't want him to grow up like that. I didn't want him to grow up like that. So, um, well, I will say to his sister that's closest to his age, he expresses his emotion, but to everybody else, not so much. So when we get off the phone, anytime we get off the phone, I tell him that I love him. He's 23 now. I know he hates it. I don't care. And then I'll tell him, say it back. Say it. Because he doesn't realize how important it is for a man to be able to express his emotions, whether it's to another man. I tell my brothers that I love him. I tell my cousins. I tell my mother, my aunts, my cousins. I tell everybody. If I love you, I love you. My friend Brandon, my friend Troy, I'll tell them from time to time. Sometimes it's just out of the blue. I'll tell them. Because a man who can express his emotions is a man who can nurture a family. And that's something that people don't really realize, that being a leader of a family, because not all men are leaders, but being the leader of a family means that you're going to serve that family. And when you're serving that family, you have to have a level of nurturing that's there. You know, we like to call men kings and lions. And I love using Mufasa from The Lion King. When you watch that movie, if you think about it, and I want y'all to think about Mufasa. Mufasa didn't just protect the territory and just know when to roar and growl, but he knew when to do it. But even with Simba, he knew when to show a nurturing personality to Simba. I literally just saw about 2 days ago a video where in real life a lion cub goes up to the dad and he just lets him cuddle up under him and he nurtures him. Men need to a good man nurtures his family, nurtures his children. If a man is always the stick, he's always the disciplinary, never takes the time, is never allowed to show emotions to his children will grow up with this warped sense that that's how men are supposed to be. Your daughters will grow up looking for that type of man. Your sons will become that type of man, an unloving, kind of stoic man. If you remember, I use movies a lot, so forgive me for using movies a lot. If you remember the movie After Earth with Will Smith, he was, in order for him to be a ghost, he not only didn't have fear of the little monster things, but he didn't show his wife emotions. He didn't show his son or his son emotions. He was just emotionless all the time, which created a separation between him and everybody else around him. Those he claimed that he loved, you couldn't tell it because he never showed that emotion, you know. So we have to be mindful of that. That's a very important thing. And when someone says that if a man cries, he is no longer a man, you just shut him down. You just shut down possibly having a great partner in your life. You see some of these comments. Um, where did I leave off? Where did I leave off? Grand Rapids from North Carolina. That's where we moved from. We went and spent 9 months in North Carolina before we moved out here to Texas. Appreciate your video authenticity, your realness, and I don't have my glasses up here, so truth, truth is really needed in these tragic times of relationship. I find your videos very helpful. My pleasure. That is the purpose of them. I started this channel because I was thinking like, okay, I've lived 53 years of relationships. I've seen good, I've seen bad. I've been up, I've been down. I've seen my mistakes, I've seen my wins. I'm sure that I can be of assistance to somebody. And I've been in positions where I had to coach people and still coach people. Have been in a position where I had to coach people and been in positions where I choose to coach people. And I want to definitely share those experiences. But yes, what Sweet Tea said, a man can become emotionally. It's called emotionally numbing when a man can't engage with his emotions, and he becomes this stoic figure that you know everybody kind of people actually develop a fear of showing their emotions when they're around a man who can't show his emotions. You hold your son, tell him it's okay to cry, and he's 24. Yeah, that's good. And Tamika, that's good for a mother to do that. It's even better when a father does it or any other male role model does it. Because when another male role model holds your son and lets him know that it's okay to cry, it becomes even more real because he can recognize that this man that I respect, this man that I'm giving some authority to, is telling me I can do this, that it's okay to do this. Oh, you're welcome, sweetie. I appreciate you. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Everybody wants to be real, but don't want to feel. Crying is a true emotion, just like being angry, mad, sad, glad. Keep it real. That's the only way to. Yeah, that's the only way to be. Like I had a moment today. I had a moment today where I was angry. I was angry. These Texas driving people, and it wasn't just regular road rage because it was inconsiderate. So I have this big thing where I try to show consideration to people, and I give people the benefit of the doubt 90% of the time, even when I shouldn't. And I desire to have that return back to me. That energy, I want it returned back to me where people show consideration. And these drivers were just showing no consideration. And it pissed me off today. Um, and I got angry. And it's good that I can get angry in front of my wife in a controlled manner. Now, a little bit of it was out of control, a little bit, a little bit. Not, and I apologize to her later, for the little bit that was a little out of control. But the fact that I felt safe enough to show that emotion, and because it's not always just about crying, it's not always just about affection, it's the whole range of emotions. Humans are emotional creatures, right? So to be able to know that I can show any range of emotions in front of my wife provides a place of solace for me. It makes me desire to be around her more. It makes me want to share more. Especially since we are we got married in our midlife. She hates that, but I don't consider it midlife. I'm gonna live to be 150, so we're in the first third. But to be able to show her, to be at this point of life and have so much history of life that didn't involve her, but have developed so many emotions and personality traits that she wasn't part of, she didn't get to grow with, to be able to talk to her about it, to explain how I felt about those different situations, to know that it's safe to be able to say it. It draws me closer to her. It literally draws me closer to her, to know that that safety is there. And some people wonder why people begin to grow further apart. That's part of the reason why. Right. And like Sweet Tea just said, exactly, creates detachments from people you're close to. When you can be vulnerable, it draws you closer because within the vulnerability is a tremendous amount of trust and love. Right. Could be a sign of vulnerability on the part of the man. Not a could be, it completely is. I be me. It completely is a sign of vulnerability when a man trusts someone to be able to express his emotions. Even when I do it to my brother, even when I tell my brother that I appreciate him, that I love him, that I'm proud of him, that I'm happy for him, all those things, or even when I'm angry with you, I'm disappointed with you, to be able to trust that those things will be received in such a way that is not going to cause a dysfunction in our relationship. But in actuality, it draws us closer. Like I didn't express those emotions to my brother when we was kids. And so we had a gulf between us growing up. He was already 3.5 years older than I am. And back when you're 14 and your brother is 17, that's a big gulf at that time frame. But once you're like 50 and 53, or right now 53 and 56, 57, something like that. He's 57 right now. The gulf is not as big of a gulf. But back then I couldn't express emotions to my brother. But we've grown up, we've matured, and now we know we can because we didn't grow up with men who felt like they can express their emotions. We really didn't. And my grandfather, he hardly ever expressed his emotions. He had been married to my grandmother for like 30, 40 years and whatnot. And it wasn't until about 2 months before he passed away that he told her that he loved her for the first time. You can always tell that he respected her. As far as when I was growing up with him, some of the stories I hear about him when before I came along, not so much. He was an old school. That's what the way society was back then, and it sucked for her. But you imagine being married to someone, having children, building a family, all this stuff, and 2 months before he passed away, and y'all been married for 30, 40 years. And that's the first time he says, I love you. It meant so much to my grandmother. I've seen her cry over a bunch of stuff. I even compared to when she lost one of her sons, she didn't cry as hard as I seen her cry when he told her that. And it made me mad. I was 15 years old and I was pissed. I was like, how dare he? Because my grandmother was that's best woman ever lived. Best woman ever lived. Um, but that hurt her a lot. I mean, it made her happy, but I can see there was a mixture of pain and hurt. But that's how my grandfather was. He was what they would call a man's man. He didn't express any emotion. I didn't even find out that he was proud of me by him telling me directly. He told my mom about 2 weeks before he passed away that he was proud of me. And then she told me. So it's hearsay as far as I'm concerned. I don't really know. I can look back and see some of his attention he showed me and say, okay, he probably did say it, but he didn't express that. So I didn't grow up with all of that. My dad didn't show emotions like that. Like so, didn't see it. Didn't see it at all. It's almost amazing that I do share it, but I'm different. Like my uncles didn't do it, but I've always been a little bit different from everybody else in my family. I used to tell them jokes that I must be. I still tell them sometimes. I think I'm adopted. I don't know, if I didn't look exactly like my grandfather, I would swear up and down that I was adopted. Uh, but we just didn't have it because that's just how it wasn't manly for you to express your emotions. That wasn't what men do. Try to turn this a little bit. That wasn't what men do. Men don't express their emotions. They don't tell their children that they love them. They don't tell their grandkids they love them. You know, they don't show when they're hurt. They don't show when they're depressed. But that's what we have to break. We have to break that. We have to break that cycle. And Sweet Tea, in essence, is saying here that we have to. Um, she was a substance abuse counselor, and that's why people have so many vices. So we need that love. We need that reassurance. We need to know that if we're angry, we can express our anger. If we're sad, we can express our sadness. If we're happy, we can express our joy and our love. And when we can't do it, it's a tragedy because it is okay. And I know in every video, I always tell you guys to share the video. I definitely want you guys to share this because when I look at the analytics for this channel, it is like 94% women who watch the videos that I produce, especially on YouTube. Um, Facebook is a little bit different. It's a little more equal, but men need to understand this. Men need to be able to rectify this situation. This is the only way we can raise healthy boys so that they can become healthy men. This is the only way that those healthy men can be in healthy family environments because we're suffering, and not just as any particular group, as people, period, around the world. This is one of the things that we're suffering through. We're suffering through the fact that men aren't being able to nurture their families and they're not teaching the next generation how to nurture. I mean, think about it. Something similar but different. Chivalry is all but dead in America. And I grew up in Georgia. So we was always opening doors. Women don't walk on the side of the street where the cars are. You walk on the inside. All the chivalrous things. I will get. I don't. I'm so used to getting wet that because she got to have the umbrella. I don't get the umbrella unless it's a big one. I don't get the umbrella. Now, fellas, let me tell you, it's raining. Both of y'all get up under the umbrella, a little cuddle time. But just all the chivalry. But you see these kids today, chivalry is dead. Hell, you get cussed out for opening up some of these younger people's doors. But in the same way we've been losing chivalry, we've been losing men being able to love their families. And that's been something that's been going on for centuries. It is not a recent development. This is something that is centuries old, but it only takes one generation to change it. Just one. All it takes is one generation. Any major change in any culture only takes one generation. That's it. If you get a generation of men today teaching, showing their emotions, sharing their emotions, the next generation will see it as a normal thing. So it only takes one generation. So although I say share the videos all the time, definitely share this one. If you don't share any other one, share this one, especially to any men that you know could use it, right? What you say? That means the men nowadays will have to walk in the rain. Yeah. Hmm. Unless you get one of them big umbrellas. But I was a poor little military guy. I just had one of them little small ones, and so it wasn't important enough to take yes that $2-3 out the budget. Uh, Not when you barely got money to feed yourself. So yeah, got walked in the rain plenty of times. Yeah, and I love movies like Officer and a Gentleman was a great movie. I love movies like that. I love those movies that still show men acting with their emotions intact, but being chivalrous towards a woman. I Be Me said, I heard that men die slowly because we keep our emotions hidden. People don't realize when you keep your emotions hidden and you don't have that release, all that stress, all the stress of holding in emotions builds up. And without some type of release and that stress building up, it pushes you more towards a heart attack or a stroke, or you start having issues with hypertension and cholesterol and all that kind of stuff, because that toxicity of negative energy inside you your body will fight it just like a virus, and it will build up in your system, and you can't. When I if I whenever I've been in a situation where I didn't have people, that's why meditation was always something important to me. I can look back on my life and tell when I had somebody that I could express my emotions to and when I couldn't, and whether it was, and most of the time it was friends, but I can look back and tell when I did not have anybody. That is when I spent the most time meditating, because I needed some form of release when I didn't have anybody that I could express my emotions to. When I have, like with my wife, I suck at meditating right now. I don't suck at meditating, but I don't do it nowhere near as often as I should, just for general peace. But and we just moved in this house and we're minimalist, so we don't have a lot of furnishings, and this room just got so much echo. Um, but yeah, if I used to meditate a lot when I didn't have an outlet, right? And it's helpful because, like I said, I plan on living to be 105. I mean 150. So I can't let this ticker get all jacked up. That's why we got back into the gym this week. This got to keep going. This got to keep going. All this got to keep working. You know. But we put ourselves. It's not just what you eat. Is the stress in your life can cause you heart attacks. And if you're stressed out because you can express your emotions, your your woman has indicated to you that if you did express your emotions, you're less than a man. It doesn't matter what else you do. It doesn't matter how well you take care of the family. It doesn't matter how well you protect the family. You expressing your emotions make you less than a man. That is so damn stressful when you can't express yourself. It is incredibly stressful. And I think the max time I've ever lived was about 2 years of my life where I was around people that I felt I couldn't express myself. That if I did express myself, um, then it was a sign of weakness. And it was like controlling people back. I messed up and dated two controlling people back to back, and that insecurity and controlling behavior and over masculinity that they started displaying, I was like, I knew I could not express how I was feeling during those time frames. And especially when, I'm starting a business, and the business was, is going through its beginning stages, and that is very stressful within itself. And to be able to express your frustrations when you have a bad week or a bad 2 weeks, and you're stressed out and you're upset and you're concerned about the continued development of it, and I can't go to this person who's supposed to be, or trying to be my running mate here, trying to be my co-pilot. I can't go to you, but you claiming that you want to be my co-pilot. You claiming that you want to, build a life with me, but I'm stressing over the fact that these last 2 weeks have been a little rough, but I can't tell you about it. I can't express, unless I express it like in a rah rah kind of mentality, that's fine. But if I have that moment of that little bit of moment of self doubt, I can't go to you about it. I got to call somebody else. I got to call one of my other friends, you know, and tell them what I'm going through. Why the hell am I with? Why am I with you if I got to call somebody else to tell them what I'm going through? Because I need that reassurance at that moment. I need that person who understands me and knows me, you know, at that moment. But I can't tell you that I'm going to this person because this person, is a woman. And of course, your insecurities are going to say that I must be doing something with that woman. Or you're going to get into your feelings of why can't you tell me? Because I can't trust you. I don't trust that you're going to still have my back. So no, I don't trust your ass. Can't. Not even slightly. And that's one of the reasons why Angelina is here and they're not, because of those insecurities. So, ladies, the first thing that will help a man to feel like he can trust you, to express his emotions, is that you have to demonstrate the confidence you have within yourself and the relationship that you have with your man. If you don't demonstrate that to him, he is not going to trust you, right? If you're trying to go through his phone, if you are making statements about his friends who are women and your mistrust for him. Now, if you got one of them friends who are overstepping her boundaries, that's different. If she overstepping her boundaries, you gotta piss on a tree at that moment. I believe in pissing on a tree when it's necessary. Mark your territory. When you got one that's overstepping. But if she's overstepping and because I'm sometimes oblivious to when people are flirting, right? So I can miss it real easy because I don't pay attention to it and I'm not looking for it. But if you're insecure, he's not going to trust you, right? So you have to alleviate the insecurities in order for him to trust you with his emotions. If you're always like looking on his phone, if he can't scroll through Facebook and he's just scrolling, and it doesn't matter, you can't control how many butts and stuff come on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube. And every time, oh, you need to delete that. Oh, you need to not follow that person. Hell, you ain't even following the person. It's just in your damn scroll. That got to go. You have to have peace in your own house. It's you and your mate against the world. Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Sherry. But so those insecurities, they got to go. They got to go. Right. And then the other part that you have to work on is your intuition with your man. You have to know this man like you know yourself. Now, of course, all of this works in reverse, ladies. I mean, gentlemen, as far as how you are functioning with your mate. The only thing about it is that um, our society says that it's okay for a woman to express her emotions. So it's not that hard for them to express their emotions. You just have to make them feel confident that you're not going to throw it in their face or use it against them or try to dominate them through those emotions. Uh, but on the other, what's harder is for women to instinctively know whether he tells you or not when he's going through something, when he's worried, when he's concerned, when he's stressed out, when he's having an emotional moment, because we're so accustomed to holding it in that we don't know, you know. But when you do know, it's not always, is something wrong? Would you, you know, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. Mm-mm. Don't always say something. Sit on the sofa. Tell him to come here. Lay his big head on your shoulder or his big head in your lap. Rub his head, rub his shoulder, whatever. Just sit there. Ladies, you have no idea. And some of you may though, because like I said, I got a mature audience here. Uh, so if you know this, type yes in the comments if you know this. But most women, especially the young ones, have no idea how much it could alleviate a man and how far it goes towards his trust when you know that there's some stress going on in him and you just tell him to come here, lay him in your lap, and just rub his head, chest, shoulder, whatever, and don't say a damn thing. Not one blessed word, right? Yes, Lawanda, it works both ways. That whole part does work both ways. And I know some the comments can get behind what I'm talking about at the moment. But if you know that, I want you to type yes. Sweet Tea says yes. And you don't say nothing. Don't say nothing at all. Just that intuitive knowledge of your man's emotional state, his energetic state, and to just console him without saying a word and I'm gonna tell you, if he's bald headed, rub his head. I'm not completely there because I'm not gonna shave it all the way down like that. But if he got a bald head, I'm telling you this. But rubbing his head. Hmm. Now, Angelina knows me well enough that, um, and she does this even when there's not anything going on. But scratching my back is such a soothing thing for me. It is incredibly soothing. And we can just be sitting there and she'll just, I don't even have to ask. She just starts doing it. Scratching my back is like there's so much stress relief in that for me. That's why I had to close my eyes. I was thinking about it. All right. Yes, I don't have to. All right. But like I said, I know y'all are a mature group. Y'all are a mature group. Y'all know what the deal is when it comes to that. Yep. And that's another one. Greeting him with a warm welcome. Greeting him with, there was a test done in Germany about 30 years ago. There was a study that was done. I said test. There was a study done in Germany about 30 years ago where, although the primary thing about about the study was the fact that men who, when they leave the house and return to the house, they get the men who don't get nothing, and then men who get that deep, passionate kiss when they leave the house and when they come home. Those men, and the primary thing they was looking at in the study is that those men who get the big, deep kiss tend to make about 50% more money than the men who get the little smack. I mean, than the men who gets nothing, and they make about 30% more than the men who get the little smack. And what they were indicating is that the sanctuary of the home and the relationship that they have with their wife encourages them to do better by their family, to do more for their family, to work harder, to make sure their family is better taken care of, right? In some of the sublines of that study, it talked about how those men also have a better emotional state of being. So when Sweet Tea says the same goes for when they come home from work to greet him with a warm welcome, that deep kiss goes further than the smack and goes way further than nothing at all. Luana says back rubbing for me. Luana, yeah, says back rubbing. Yeah, give me a good back scratch. Actually, the scratch the back, head, behind the ear, the arms, the shoulders, the chest, the legs, everywhere, everywhere. Real thing. There's actually a place in Miami, Florida, where they have a scratching. It's a scratch sessions. I want to go there just to do it. It's a scratch session. Oh yeah. And I want Angelina to be there so she can see whatever techniques that they be doing, learn some things. It's just like when I used to go to massage parlors, um, regular ones. I used to pay attention to what the masseuse was doing so that I can learn how to do it better for when I'm at home. And I literally took a class on it. But yeah, that back rubbing, and for anything. The other day, I was rubbing I was rubbing her feet. First, well, initially she had her foot. You know how you get that funny, that tingling feeling in your foot because you had your foot wrong. And most of the time, people just let them stomp around, walk around to the feeling. No, give me your foot. I'm gonna rub your foot. You got to take care of your mate. Yeah, that back massage is a great thing. Back scratch is better for me. Plus, I have a big old back, so you may not be able to tell on this video, but I get told all the time with my shoulders being wide and back all big. That's a lot of work. I don't want to put in. I don't want. To, I don't want. If my wife give me a back massage, then I'm probably gonna have to massage her hands and wrists afterwards because it's a lot of work. But a good old back scratch. Anyway. Yeah, but it's crippling when a man can't show his emotions. So don't be insecure about the relationship. If you feel insecure about the relationship, insecure just period as a woman, then you're not ready for a relationship. You're not ready. You're just simply not ready for one. Um, if you got to control his social media, control his phone calls, control his friends, control his family members, if you got to control every aspect of his life to feel secure in a relationship, you're just not ready. And he's not going to be able to express his emotions. So don't even get involved. Don't even deal with it. If you're already in a relationship, you definitely need some coaching. You want to get some coaching in quick, fast, and a hurry because you want to find out what is it that's in your past that is causing you to feel that way. I when I'm coaching people, period, no matter what type of coaching I'm doing, I always know that I got to discover their history before I can coach them in whatever category of things that we're talking about. If you are insecure about your relationship, you need to discover what created that within you. Let me show you. Just let me see. Let me push this back a little bit. Let me show you one of the techniques that I use to do that. Um, so, like one of the techniques I do utilize to do that is that based on a person's age, and I break their age up, right? All right, so I'll draw four circles, and each circle will represent a decade of their life. So this is 0 to 10, 11 to 20, 20, 21 to 30, and 31 to 40, right? So that's 4 decades of their life. Now what I asked them to do is when you were between this age and that age, where did you live, right? I asked them, well, where did they live? What was it? I'm sorry, I just drew a blank. There's a second question that I just fell out my head. I have a notebook that I follow, but I want to know where they live. Uh, oh yeah, what's their greatest achievement? And I put it's a plus and a minus there. And what's the biggest trauma that happened during that time frame? And I have them break it up into each one. Now, the reason why I have people do that, the first question of where did you live is just to get you thinking about that time frame of your life. You know, where you live, where did you go to school, the friends that you had, you start thinking about those aspects of your life. Then what were your greatest achievements? You start thinking about things that happened in your life that was great. So your memory starts to zone in on that time frame. And then what was your greatest trauma during that time frame? And it may not be anything major. It could be small stuff, where you used to be an all-star in some sport and then you became average, or your parents got divorced, or something major like you got SA'd or anything. So what are the tragedies that happen? What are you experiencing? Oftentimes when I'm dealing with someone who has a controlling behavior, um, within those time frames, especially between that first and second, some of the pain and hurt that I'll discover is that the father cheated on the mother or the mother cheated on the father. And because they did that, the parents changed who they were and they became kind of more controlling or distant or non-trusting of each other. And they picked up on that as a child. So although they may have never experienced somebody breaking their trust, they saw the trust broken from a parent or a grandparent or some other person of authority within their lives. And because of that, they saw it as a way to avoid ever feeling that pain that they just witnessed. Didn't have to experience it themselves, but just avoiding the pain that they witnessed, they developed this insecurity about relationships. And so to draw them back to that time frame, now I know where I can work with this person for them to start understanding their insecurity, and we can start devising how to, the process of overcoming those insecurities. So personally, you guys should do that. And I know if you're 50 or 60, you're gonna have a lot more circles and you'll be putting a lot more information in there, because you're going to end up most of the time putting more information in there than the questions that are asked. You know, where did you live? What was your greatest achievement? What was your greatest trauma during all those time frames? But decade by decade, right? So try that. And when you do that, hopefully you have a discernment that allows you to be able to break down exactly how those things are affecting you now. And oftentimes, when I'm talking to the persons about it, we're going over it. It gives me that point to be able to dig deeper into their psyche. Oh, I saw my father abusing my mother, or my mother abusing my father, or that's when my uncle, started doing drugs, and I saw how his relationship, diminished with my aunt, and you know, I developed this mentality, and we start going a little bit deeper. You know, how did you and your uncle's relationship change? How did you and your aunt's relationship change? You know, how did it affect you and your siblings, or how did it affect you in school? How did it affect you in sports? Did it change your perception of what you can achieve in life? There's so much more that starts to happen psychologically when you start thinking about those things that you may not think it affected you, but now you start to see it. You start to see some of those things. And when you can see it, it makes it easier for you to start saying, you know what? My grandfather didn't tell my grandmother that he loved her. When I realized it, until 2 months before he passed away, after 30, 40 years of marriage, it was at that moment that I didn't, it was at that moment that I realized I never saw my grandfather hug my grandmother. I never saw him kiss my grandmother. I was never in, when I lived with them, I never heard them in the room doing the shakalaka boom boom. Like I never saw affection. And I lived with them the majority of my life. But it was during that time frame because of my love for my grandmother that I started becoming a more affectionate person. Like I can see why, well, let me rephrase. I can see why I started at a young age, like 7, 8 years old, becoming a more affectionate person. Because even when I looked at it with my mom and the relationships that she had while I was growing up, I saw men use her. And so I became the surrogate affection, true love, affectionate person towards my mom and towards my grandmother. So I saw how I developed into the affectionate person that I am and why affection is such a huge love language for me because it was developed by watching two people that I love dearly not receive it from the persons that they were looking for it from. Of course, I couldn't give them romantic love, but I gave the type of love that I could give and probably overly abundantly towards them because you couldn't separate me from me and my grandma, especially. I, Look, I almost left Israel without permission and didn't give two shits about what the effects would be to my family at the time frame or myself to go AWOL and be at her funeral. And I was gonna beat the shit out of my staff sergeant who was trying to delay me. But thankfully, my aunts got things squared away and I was able to get back to America. But that's how much that's how much that affected me in my way of thinking and how I developed. So when you can start diving into those details on the positive and the negative, you can see yourself more clearly and you have a better understanding of yourself. You know. So try that. Just try it. And then meditate on it. Meditate on what you write. And then when you think of additional things, write those things down in those decades, even more so. Just write them down, write them down, write them down. Right. And the more information you can see, the more you will see yourself, the better you will know yourself. And the better you know yourself, the better you can have a relationship with someone. And that allows you to be able to express yourself better. You know, if you grew up and let's say one of your traumas was that you grew up in one of those households where your opinion didn't matter. You was a child, you are seen and you are not heard. You could never express yourself. Your parents would shut you down. Your aunts and uncles would shut you down. The pastor shut you down. The teachers shut you down. Everybody was always shutting you down from being able to express yourself, especially when you knew you was right about something and you got punished unduly when you was right. How did that affect you? Did that cause you to not trust people with expressing yourself? You know, so think about a man who went through that type of lifestyle where he had, and a lot of us grew up with single mothers. He had let's say he had a single mother who was overly dominant, who talked shit about men all the time, talked trash about his dad, and he still loved his dad, cared for his dad, but he was shut down constantly and continuously by his mother. He will, and then but he may say it's because, oh, I was married to this woman and, she was just controlling and she didn't know how to respect the man as being a man, not even realizing that he was attracted to that woman because his mother was that woman. And for most men, our first love is our mothers. Just like for most women, their first love is their fathers. But if he grew up in that situation and things were done that way, and let's say he went to school and he had a teacher who was that way, like one of my son's teacher, my son told me that that teacher was racist when he was in the first grade. I was just like, you just trying to make an excuse. I found out later on that she got fired for being racist. I had to go back to my son and I apologized to him. This was like 5, 6 years later. I had to go back to him. I apologized to him. I said, son, you know what? You was right. I just did not hear you, and that was my fault. I apologize about it. I apologize to you for not focusing more on what you were saying and paying attention to how you were feeling, you know. But if you can see that in the history of your mate, you may be able to identify why he doesn't show emotions, why he keeps it bottled up, why he keeps you at a distance. But also for some men, you can see why you keep chasing after people who you know are not good for you. Like, although your mother may be your first love, or you got an auntie or somebody who may be been in that position, you see why you keep running after the same type of woman and having bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship and never feeling fulfilled in that particular part of your life. Is because this actually could have been a whole video by itself, because because you're chasing after what you thought as a child was love, and you haven't grown out of it. And that's why you can't show emotions, or that's why you come into a relationship already behind, looking for combat, looking for her to be over domineering, and you knowing that you're going to have to fight that because you're grown now and you a man, but you still really a little boy chasing the love of your mom or your aunt, your grandmama, or somebody like that. And those are the things we have to work on. And we work on those things. And if you have a mate that can understand that, you can work on those things together. Because I will say, even though the video I posted earlier today, that if a person is a bad person for you, there are some struggles that you do stick by a person with. There are other struggles that you don't. But if you can work through a struggle like that, with a person gaining their confidence and being able to express their emotions with you, trusting you, that is something worth working through, because that'll draw you guys even closer together. So, with that, we're going to call it a day, because my wife got dinner ready, because I can smell it and it smells good. She's an excellent chef. Her pages are Eat Sip Smoke Travels. If you want to see her cooking, she's going to be doing more and more cooking demonstrations now that we've moved here to San Antonio. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you very, very much for being here. I thank you for supporting the channel, and with your shares, your likes, your comments, and everything else that you do to help this channel grow. I greatly appreciate it. This channel just really got started 2 months ago, and on YouTube we're at like 4,400 subscribers, and that is amazing to me, that for this channel to grow so fast, that quickly, in such a short period of time. So every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, unless I'm traveling. And if I'm traveling, we'll have a different day. But every Tuesday, Central time frame, we go live. And hopefully you guys will be here every time. And hopefully sometimes you guys will want to come on to the show. That would be a great and awesome thing as well. I love me a lot, but I don't like hearing my voice all the time. Right. So it'd be great to have you guys on for conversations. And one day I'm going to trick my wife into coming on here with me as well. So I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great day, great evening. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. Oh, you know what? This is going to sound like a plug, and is halfway is. If you would like for any coaching from me, just go to Coach Renz, RENZ. It's the last part of my name, first name, coachrenz.com, and you can sign up for coaching programs on there. So y'all have a great one. Be wonderful in your life. And see you on videos, and see you next Tuesday. And I'm out.